When Emily Williams told her parents that she was leaving her job as a certified public school teacher to launch a microschool, they thought she was crazy. Both longtime public school educators themselves, they couldn't understand why Emily, who had taught in Mississippi public schools for more than a decade, would want to give up a good district salary, insurance, and retirement benefits to become an education entrepreneur. Emily, however, felt drawn to create an educational environment that would emphasize individualized learning, personal autonomy, and mutual respect. She launched Micah's Mission, a low-cost, faith-based microschool located in Vicksburg, Mississippi, that serves about 50 K-12 students, including several students with significant disabilities and special needs. All of her students experience a personalized educational model that is tailored to their unique abilities, interests, and goals. Emily Williams, welcome to the Liberated Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
It's so great to have you here. I had the wonderful opportunity to meet you in person and to visit Micah's Mission when I was traveling through Mississippi and looking at all of the microschools that are emerging in your beautiful state. And it was just wonderful to see what you've built with Micah's Mission. And I want to hear more about what Micah's Mission means to you and why you created it. But first, let's start with your background as a teacher and a coach. So you started off your career in education being a coach and then moved into being a special education teacher in district schools for many years before becoming an education entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about that process of coach to special education teacher and your experience in the public schools.
Well, my parents, my dad is administrator and a coach for 45 years and retired he was within public and private schools. My mom is finishing her 48th year this year. And so she's been in public and private, but mainly in public schools with special needs. And so, and learning differences. And so my sister is a dyslexia therapist and a teacher and an interventionist. My brother actually is a teacher here at Micah's. And so he was a coach and he was in special education. I guess his minor would be special education. So just from a group, a whole family worth of educators. So I began coaching. I loved it. I loved to just be active and hang with kids and have a different relationship because, coaches impact our children and our youth in a different way. And they're that motivating way, that piece of able to see them with the grit and the grind that they can do in and out of their sports. So that's something that I've just loved. Love that motivational piece, and I have high energy, so that's just kind of that cheerleading mode is just me. But I went through a patch where I became a survivor, and God led me on a different path, and that was within the special education classroom in the public school setting. I loved it. I loved working with all of our students and everything. But I had a parent come to me a few years ago and she said her son was about to be in 6th grade. And she said, how can you loop all the way through 12th grade? And I was like, I can't. So even though I'm qualified, that's just not how it works. You don't necessarily loop year to year. So that's where a little bit of this light bulb went off of what can I do? How can I manage to help these families that would like this continuation of working with me?
Yeah, so really interesting thoughts there. So yes, started off your career as a coach, and then you said you were a survivor of domestic violence, ended up shifting into the classroom as a special education teacher. And I remember when we met, Emily, you talked about sort of some of the systemic challenges you encountered in the classroom, that the ways in which conventional classrooms are set up, especially for special education students, often doesn't allow for that customization and individualization that you felt was so important, that you certainly saw as a coach and that you saw in working with special needs students. I wonder if you can share a little bit more about what that was like for you.
So in the classroom, there's so many things so many non-negotiables you've got to reach, and there's lots and lots of expectations, but no one child comes to you the same. As humans, none of us are alike, or our world would be boring if we were. But yeah, the kids come in and they all need something different. And so with that, it's a difficult transition to be able to do that and meet all of the teacher standards and marks, and the academic pieces and standards there. So it's harder to tailor when there were so many pieces that I had to go by. So moving in to this space, we're able to let the kids come in and teach us what they need and self-advocate for themselves of how they learn. It's given us time to have a slower pace. And that's something that I did see that was hard, because we had to keep moving and keep moving. And if there was an academic standard that maybe wasn't mastered, we didn't just get to spend constant time there. We had to continue to move forward. And so here at Micah's, we can slow down and we can take that time. And so if a student doesn't get a certain skill, but another student does, that student can move on while we wait, and we make sure that we meet that piece and meet that mastery before we move. So
So you were getting your doctorate in education, which of course you now have. But at the time that you were studying for your doctorate, you had an interesting project that you were working on, which is really what prompted you to think about opening a microschool at the very beginning. Tell us about that experience.
So our oldest son he was in 4th grade at the time, and he came. My husband's a coach, so I mean, so I'm, yes, coach and family. But he came to me and my husband, and he said, "Okay, now, how can y'all spend a little more time? We know that y'all have got to work, and when you're working on IEPs, I mean, some are like 68 pages per student, and so they take a little time to do. So sometimes I'd have to bring work home, and my husband, of course, coaching year round. He's in and out, and so it was, pretty much a good question. How can y'all spend more time with us?" And during that time, one of my professors it was an innovative class. So we had to create this research based innovative piece. Well, I had grown up in private schools, and like I said, my dad was a headmaster, and then I taught in private and public, so I'd kind of known the difference there. So I wanted to look at charter and homeschools. Well, it ended up going even closer just to homeschools. And through this innovative piece, I noticed that in our community, we looked international. I looked internationally and came locally. And so I noticed that in our town, our homeschool population and those that had some special needs, it had increased in only one of the homeschool co-ops. It had increased from 35 families in the fall to that time in the spring. It was close to 85 families, and they had a waiting list. And so they were trying to figure out, what to do and how to help. And so,
and what year was this, Emily? Sorry.
Duet.
What year was this when you were seeing this growth?
This was 2015, 2016.
So even before the pandemic-induced boost to homeschooling, where of course we saw just dramatic increases in the number of homeschooling families, you were seeing that in your local community pre-pandemic. Interesting.
And some students that had disabilities, some on the spectrum, some with language deficits, they were actually traveling from here an hour away to receive services. And so, so what could I look at in our community that would be able to embody what we might need to help the community with the deficit, or the increase of of students that might need additional help. Because as we know, with our special needs population, some have a lot of health issues, some have a lot of doctor's appointments, some are in and out of hospitals. And so parents have to take enough off of work, and some still have to work to help pay those medical bills or to have insurance for their children. So some wanted a homeschool setting, but couldn't necessarily do that for themselves. So that's what my innovative piece entailed. And what I noticed was that with the homeschool school choice piece, it's broad enough here that would allow for us to meet the kids where they are and be able to let them grow at their pace and be able to build their confidence and their self-advocacy of what they longed for, and not have to rush through it. And so that was one of the biggest pieces. And I actually turned it in and received a 100 on it. And then my next course, another professor, my international policies and law professor, was like, all right, y'all need to put an innovation together. And I was like, oh, I've already got it. So I put it on paper, and I wrote it out. And at that time, the Lord, kind of led me to read the book of Micah. And Micah 6:8 was there, and act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And I was like, oh, wouldn't that be, this is such a mission, an educational mission. Let's make it Micah's mission. I said, and so I went to my husband, I was like, what you think? And he was like, well, I mean, that makes sense. That's cool. And so I put it in, and as a paper, and my international professor came back and said, you realize you could implement this anywhere in the world, and this would go far. And I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to say. And I went to my husband, and he was like, oh, Lord, what are we going to do? And he said, if the Lord asks you to step out of the boat, you got to go. And so that became our tagline. When God asks you to step out of the boat, what do you do? And so that's where it all came from.
Just such an inspiring story, that you realized that you could make a bigger impact in your community, not only on special needs students, but also general population, general education students. You have a mix of both. And also interesting that in Mississippi, it's thankfully easy to be a homeschooler, as well as also relatively easy to open a private school. Yet you decided to open your program more as a microschool for homeschoolers that would enable that kind of maximum freedom and flexibility for families, as you talk about, where families could attend part-time or full-time as a full-time schooling alternative, but really leave it up to families to customize the education that's right for them. And it's just so exciting to see that. And so, as you decided to create Micah's mission as kind of your full-time endeavor, your parents thought you were crazy, right? And so I'd love to hear a little bit about what that conversation was like.
Well, I've never been inside the box. I've always been outside the box. And so I don't know that they really thought any different, of me coming and saying something completely outside the realm. My parents, they were like, you're doing what? Now you realize you're not going to have insurance. You're not going to have a salary. So that was their whole piece was the stability, piece. And I remember, looking at my dad, and I said, because he was grilling me. He was like, this and this and this. And I said, but Dad, you know what? I said, I know that this is not traditional. And there's nothing about this traditional. And I know that traditional has been your security and yours and mom's security all these years, private or public schools. And I said, but the one thing you've raised me in the church, and you raised me that if God lays something on your heart and he asks you to move, you move. And he looked at me and he said, well, I guess I can't argue with that. So let's get it done. And so it's been really great. My mom and I giggle, and she said, so I'm fixing to retire, but am I going to be your bookkeeper for you? And so you're going to let me work. And so, it more than likely will be a complete family affair. And I love that. My parents worked together for 30 years, and so it was just a beautiful piece to watch. And so, yeah, so
Well,
it's been one of those things.
yeah, I mean, and it's a legitimate concern, especially, as a former public school teacher, you had that security, you had those retirement benefits and health insurance benefits. And it's difficult to give that up. And yet, when we spoke, you talked about how you were able to actually, within a relatively short time of running Micah's mission, earn more money as a microschool founder than you were earning as an experienced public school teacher and administrator. So it just shows that taking that leap into entrepreneurship can not only be personally incredibly fulfilling and rewarding, but also, may not be that kind of financial risk that I think some people might expect. I wonder your thoughts on that.
Well, it is. It's a scary step. It's a real scary step to think of it in the way of, oh, what am I fixing to lose? But when you look at it in the way of, what is there to gain? That's what keeps pushing me there and going, because there were times, I mean, my husband and I had our savings, and yes, we had to really use a lot of our savings to pay for my salary, because there was times and there was months at a time that I didn't get paid. And that was because just like our students, we have a few teachers that came that needed their safe place to work. They needed their safe place to succeed and to grow and to be understood. And when they come through the door, there's no judgment on how life has been. And so, I had a few teachers that I needed to hire. I needed to give them the hope in which we give these kids, because, being a survivor, I think that even though that's a horrible thing and a traumatic piece of my life, but that's something that prepared me to be here, to be able to continue to show compassion to our teachers and our students and our families, and empathy. And that sometimes can be missed in the real world because we get so busy at such a fast pace that compassion and empathy aren't given. So that's the piece that has allowed that here. And that is the reason why it was so much worth it. It's okay to live simply. You don't have to have everything, and because the thing is that feeling and that getting to sit back and bask in all these other successes is what made me whole, and is what healed me, and is what made all those paychecks okay to not have. But I do have to say, my husband and I looked this year, and this is our 5th year, our 3rd year as an independent entity, but our 5th year, and I made more this past year than I would have made in public school. And so I can't thank the good Lord above for that, because he provided. So there was many times that I was like, I don't know how I'm fixed to pay my staff. And people step up and people provide. And I will always be forever grateful for God putting those people in our lives. And so there's people there that will help. I'm here, if you're looking to step out, I'm here. I will be your cheerleader. And so have quite a few that have reached out, and I'm so excited to make that connection, to help them reach the goals that they feel led to do, and to help their community, to help their families. So yeah,
It's really
it's kind of
great
what
to
it's about.
It's great to see that more and more prospective education entrepreneurs are coming your way. And I know that you're looking at different ways to support them. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But I want to go back to the environment you've created with Micah's mission. You talked about empathy, compassion, kind of personalized learning, mutual respect. That comes across quite clearly the moment you step in the door of Micah's mission. I know that I was really just so wowed by what I saw there. I wonder if you can take us through what a typical day at Micah's mission might look like. You have hired teachers. You also have various teaching specialists, including a dyslexia specialist. But tell us a little bit about what a typical day at Micah's mission might look like.
So we begin first thing in the morning, drop off, and we have a early and late drop off. So other parents can get their other children in different places. It also allows for an early appointment if some students need to have an early appointment to go to, so they don't miss their class time. So what we do is we get here, and one of the teachers who is she's working towards her elementary ed undergrad degree, and she was actually a CNA, but she is working towards her degrees. She's completed a few and never wanted to go back to school before, but she is over our daily living skills in our pre-ets department, our pre-work skills. So she takes academics to daily living skills. So they cook breakfast each morning, and they learn how to cook and clean and how to serve others. And so it's important to not just be served, but to learn full circle and give back to others as well. And so they do that first thing in the morning. 9 o'clock, we have devotion. So we bring in our faith-based piece where we work on reflections, whether that is with scripture or whether that is with inspirational quotes, where they can reflect upon their day before. Now going through the Lent season, they have chosen something for the next 40 days that they're going to work on that they feel is a weakness that they might either need to take away from their life, or the negative piece away, and what positive can be added to. And so they're reflecting each day upon that. And then we go to class. Everybody goes to their specific space, and teachers rotate within their spaces. And so they work on individual work, they work on group work, they have their class time and instruction when needed. It's a lot of self-motivated learning. We are working, especially for those that are planning to go to college, we're working on how to read rubrics. We're working on independent research. And because a lot of colleges have gone to that way of learning as well. So we want them prepared for college, and we want them prepared to be able to read directions and understand job descriptions. So we're learning full circle there. We have lunch together. There is a small food pantry, kind of a food pantry on the go, that a couple of our students are, it's their job. They are in charge of it, and they make sure that all the donations that come into the church, they take the food and they do their job every day and refill the food pantry and stock it and sort different pieces together. And then we have our pre-ets, which is our pre-work skills. We look at different jobs, resumes, applications, self-advocacy, how to ask for help when we need it appropriately, how to they love to intertwine from K through 12th grade, and love to watch the role modeling and peer modeling that go on and role play. Some will be the bosses that the employees come in and they do their interviews, and so they really they learn how to take these skills and apply them together. So at the end of the day, we have a little physical activity back in November, we ran 30 miles in 30 days and raised $300 for St. Jude. And the students asked if they could continue to do that. So we continue with our physical activity every afternoon, and then we go home. So that is kind of how our day goes. And we have dyslexia therapy, like you said. Our dyslexia therapist goes into some of the private and public schools. And then also some come to her after school.
It's just so great, Emily. And I know you said that you began Micah's Mission as sort of an independent entity 3 years ago. You kind of started initially a couple of years prior to that, but really built it up into an independent organization within the past 3 years. I wonder, what are some of the successes that you've seen, especially reactions from parents whose children might be attending Micah's Mission, or the reactions from the students themselves? What have you heard?
Well, we have a few things. So our first graduate from Micah's, she graduated from junior college, and she is currently in senior college, and she's so super pumped. She's at Mississippi State University, and so she's doing well for herself. Still stops by. We cannot get rid of them. They come back. They love to come see us. They know Fridays are the days to come visit. And so we have quite a few that graduated from here and they've gone to junior college, or they have completed work studies with trade schools. Some went straight to work. Some had jobs during school that they continued and they've moved up the ladder. But also, we do have our students that they come and they stay until they graduate and continue to come back. However, we have had students that have come in that have been here for a short period, maybe the 2-year process with our dyslexia therapist to bridge the gap from academics, from functional to instructional learning. And those have incorporated back into their private and public schools. I do have to say the ones that had to test back in public school, that they came to us 2 or 3 grades below, but after working that 1 to 2 years, they tested above grade level when they went back in, and they've been successful. And they are AB honor rolls, and so they make sure when they see us in town, they let us know that they're still doing great. So those are successes to us. I will tell you, another success. We have had some kids that in our world, we know that sometimes rehabilitative services are needed. Our kids face a lot of hard worldly things. And so I did have a student come to me and say, you know what? I used to get in trouble all the time before I came here, but I hadn't been in trouble since I've been here. He was with us 4 years, and graduated and has held his job and moved up and has done fabulously. So yeah, there have been such wonderful success stories that we're grateful to experience.
Oh, congratulations, Emily. How rewarding that must be for you to see not only that kind of personal success and growth in your students, but also academic success, career success, and accomplishment in higher education beyond Micah's Mission. So kudos to you. And you're not content just to focus on Micah's Mission. You're thinking more broadly. I know when I visited Micah's Mission, we had this conversation about how you started your career as a coach, and now you're continuing that coaching mindset with trying to help other education entrepreneurs to replicate what you've done with Micah's Mission. Tell us about that vision.
So I've had quite a few reach out, and so when I was going through this research, I realized that there are some gaps in places like we talked about earlier, and other entrepreneurs have seen different gaps that they are passionate about helping fill. And it's not that I'm looking to build Micah's missions around, but I would like to take the model that we have made and and offer it, because it is so broad, and offer it to those that where they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can take their pieces and implement where we've already made this broad piece and tweak it to their own. And when I was coming and doing this, it was just kind of me. I didn't necessarily, I felt alone, and I don't want anybody to feel that way. I don't want them to get stuck and go, well, nobody understands why I'm stuck. I want them to have a place to reach out to. And so I want to cheer them on and help them however. So yes, I hope to working on trademark of our model, in the process of doing that, so others can just take it and use it and be able to make it work to them. It's kind of like the kids coming in here, whatever they might need, tweak it and use it, but a place where they don't have to go and reinvent the wheel and take all this time and years of trying to figure out. They already have something that they can begin to tweak and go from that can be their own, where they can reach the highest level of their goals of where they want to be, and know that somebody's got their back, and somebody's here to be on their sideline to cheer them on. And that's what I feel like I'm here for, to do that. Because I had a lady come to me and she said, but this is what I envision, but I don't want to take away from you. And I looked at her and said, you won't take away from me. All you're going to do is add to. So let's add together, let's put it together. Let's partner together, because what better way to make things happen and reach all of our children? We wouldn't have so many school choices if we didn't need all these options to meet these kids where they are. So why don't we just partner together and let's just do it? Because I would rather see other people grow than people never start because they didn't have anybody to help them.
Oh, what a beautiful vision, Emily. I'm so thrilled to see where that goes and encourage my listeners and viewers to reach out and connect with you. I'm wondering what you think about the future of the microschooling movement and some of these other emerging, often non-traditional education models that are sprouting throughout the state of Mississippi.
Yes.
I visited many of them when I was there, as well as nationally. What are your thoughts?
I think it's just beautiful. I think it's wonderful because, we're just, kids need so many options. There's so many things that can help fulfill the success. And, there's a saying that I know you've heard. It's been said everywhere, but it takes a village. Well, guess what? It takes a village. It takes a village of partnerships. We have partnerships here where we have counseling that we partner with. We have OT and PT and speech and behavior ABA therapy that we partner with. And we can't do it without those partnerships. Those partnerships are what make us whole. And so all these pieces sprouting up and all these pieces are so beautiful. But how beautiful aren't they when they come together as puzzle pieces and make the ultimate art at the end? And that's what I see. That's what I see, is just little pieces at a time, and us connecting through places and through wonderful people like you that are getting this word out. You're making this happen. You're doing this to help us and support us. And without you, how would we know each other? How would we be able to meet? How would we be able to connect our puzzle with the piece that we might be missing? Because that's one thing here with Micah's, the teachers here, they teach their strength. And whatever their weakness is, another teacher, it's their strength, not their weakness. So that's how we connect, is because we put all of our strengths together, which will in turn, as we learn from each other, increase our weaknesses and make them stronger. But that's what we do with our kids here and learning in the full circle. And I think that that's what we can do with this microschooling. I think that we are a piece of the puzzle that will just completely begin to fit together to make this beautiful piece for our children and for the future of education.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that it really is these pieces of the puzzle coming together to create much more individualized learning opportunities for each child. Because as you said, each child is so different. Their needs are so different. And it's wonderful to see these different supports coming together in imaginative ways to really meet them and where they are and where they could go. And certainly Micah's mission is very much a part of that. And I certainly love telling these stories and helping to get the word out about the amazing work that you do in Mississippi and that other education entrepreneurs are doing around the country. So, Emily, if my listeners and viewers want to connect with you, either to pick your brain about how they could become an education entrepreneur or partner with you and get some coaching there, or just learn more about Micah's mission, what is the best way for them to connect?
Well, we have a Facebook page, so Micah's Mission School Incorporated. We also have a website, which is micahsmissionschool.org. And so all of my information is there. You can read about what we do and see pictures of our little ones that are so much fun. And then our Facebook page. Now, so if you really want to have a good time or you just need a giggle, most weeks, which you got to join us when you were here, we do a little coffee and a chat. And so all the kids pick on me. I am a lot of times the butt of the joke. Even though I'm the principal, we have a good time and our relationship, they like to pick on me. And so they pick on me about all my coffee cups and all the coffee that I drink during the day. And so we do coffee and a chat, and I kind of show different coffee cups throughout the different times. And if there's a different one, and they like to buy me coffee cups so I can feature it for them. But we have a little coffee and a chat, and you get to meet the kids and see what we're doing. And we also have a lunchtime live. And so they like to just join. And our sweet MJ, who's graduating this year, he likes to pray for everybody. And so if you want to be blessed, just join us for a little live time during the week, and you'll get to meet a lot of our friends. And but you can also check us out on our website. Feel free
Emily,
to email me, call, text. It's on there. So
just so wonderful. Emily Williams from Micah's Mission, thank you again for being on the Liberated podcast.
thank you so much. I so enjoyed it.